morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you, the good people of the tube. Hope today, hope you're feeling grand and all is well in your world. Hello there, everybody. First A&Q back here. So, yes, let's get to it, shall we? Yes, I think so. Okay, so, question one today is a few different parts. Question one is, what's your feelings on the Red Hot Chili Peppers album, Mother's Milk? I really like it. I mean, it's not my favourite Chili Peppers album by a long stretch. But I don't... It's not one of those albums I'm like, oh, I don't like it at all. I love a lot of the songs on Mother's Milk. There's a few songs I'm not so keen on, but most of it I really, really like. There's no song on there I'm like, oh, God, no, turn it off. You know what I mean? I like all the songs, but there's certain ones I like more than others, which, you know, kind of is usual, I suppose. But I really like Mother's Milk. I mean, from what I've read, I've heard that, like, you know, obviously it's John's first album with the band. I heard he wasn't particularly comfortable being, like, you know, ridiculously young as well. You know, he was a bit kind of like, you know, whole new world to him kind of thing. And I think the producers kind of rode him a bit hard to do overdubs and multiple guitars and stuff like that. And I think it really... it pushed him in a direction he wasn't particularly comfortable with and wasn't particularly happy with, and I think it kind of marred the album for him a bit. And you can kind of hear that as well. I mean, it is heavily layered, that album. You know, Mother's Milk is heavily layered. There's a lot going on, guitar-wise, on that album. All sorts of different tonalities, different, you know, all sorts of this and the other. But I mean, I really like Mother's Milk. I mean, like I say, it's not my favourite Chili Peppers album by a long stretch, but I do like the album. There's some great songs on there, which I'll talk about more in a sec. But yeah, I really like it. I really think it's cool. It's a cool album. I like, you know, as John's first album, I think it kind of like shows how inexperienced he was, kind of so to say, and like, you know, this, that, and the other. And you can kind of hear it's not the John that developed, you know what I mean? It's a totally different John. You know, the Mother's Milk album John is different to Blood Sugar Sex Magic John, and Blood Sugar Sex Magic John is different to Californication John, and then By the Way John, and you know, every incantation of John Frusciante is different. He just constantly kind of like reinvents certain things about himself. It's very, very cool. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I really like Mother's Milk. So you also asked, is there a song off it you really love to play? Yeah, there's loads of songs off Mother's Milk I really love to play. There's Good Time Boys, Pretty Little Ditty. I think Stone Cold Bush is probably one of the most fun Chili Peppers songs to play ever. What else is there? Trying to think off the top of my head what else there is. I mean, there's loads of songs on there. I can't think though. Do you know when your brain just goes blank? They're the three I can think of. I remember learning Knock Me Down years and years ago. I learned Knock Me Down, but I don't remember it because after I learned it, I was kind of like, yeah, I prefer listening to this than playing it. So I remember it was always the outro to Knock Me Down that got me. There's, you know, it's so lonely when you don't even know yourself. That bit always got me, and I always wanted to learn it. I learned the song just for that bit, and because I'm a bit of a stickler, I don't like to learn just like that bit of the song. I have to learn the entire song. But once I learned the entire song, I was a bit like, meh, I'm not... like I said, I enjoy listening to it more than I enjoy playing it. So I've kind of forgotten how to play it. I kind of remember bits of it, but not really. Because it's just a song I like to listen to more than play. So, but what I say, I think my favourite out of all of them is probably Stone Cold Bush. I love that riff. Yeah, it's such a wicked wah riff. And you go ape with the guitar solo. It's so much fun. Although I do love Good Time Boys. Good Time Boys is great fun to play as well. Pretty Little Ditty, obviously, is really, really cool. From what I've read, Pretty Little Ditty was the only song on Mother's Milk where John used a Stratocaster and a Marshall. And you can kind of hear it. It does. The tonality of Pretty Little Ditty sounds totally different to the rest of the album, you know, it really does. So I can kind of believe that in a way that that's a Strat and a Marshall, and the rest is, well, we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, so but yeah, I mean, there's loads of songs on there I like to play. I've learned quite a few on there, but I've forgotten the ones I've kind of like that kind of like I prefer to listen to over playing, if that makes any sense. Like things like Knock Me Down, there's Sexy Mexican Maid. certain other songs on there, like where I've learnt them and I've forgotten them because I enjoy listening to them more than playing them. Whereas songs like Good Time Boys and Pretty Little Ditty and Stone Cold Bush, I remember them because I play them a lot more and I enjoy playing them more. I enjoy listening to and playing them. It's really, really cool. So yeah. I mean, there's the three off the top of my head. I mean, I'm sure there's others, but they're the three off the top of my head that I really like to play. Yeah. Okay. So you also asked, do you like John's sound on the album? No, I don't. I don't like John's guitar tone on Mother's Milk at all. I find it very overproduced, and there's not. I just don't like the tonality of it. I mean, John for that album was using a Carvin amp, as I recollect. I think there's a Mesa Boogie as well. I know John used Mesa Boogie after that. The first leg of the Mother's Milk tour, John used Mesa Boogie. I think it's like the Simulcast 200 watt power amp and rack unit that Kurt Cobain used, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that one. And Mesa Boogie cabs. But I don't like the high gain fizzy sound he's got in that album at all. Even the funky clean sound, I don't like it. I much preferred it when he switched to Marshall and to his CBS Stratocaster. I much prefer his tone when he did that, and obviously subsequent tones after that, where he used Stratocasters and Marshalls and Fenders and Vox and stuff like that. I prefer those sounds to the Mother's Milk era tones, which is, like I say, I'm pretty sure is a Carvin amp, and I'm pretty sure it's a Mesa Boogie in there as well. Certain sounds sound like Mesa Boogie. Certain sounds definitely sound like a Carvin, and obviously that's what he had. But definitely some of them sound like Mesa Boogie. But again, Pretty Little Ditty sounds like a Marshall and a Stratocaster to me, and it wouldn't surprise me. And apparently that's rumoured that is the only song he recorded with a Strat and a Marshall. But and it's kind of like a it's like a prequel of the tone to come, if you will. It took a while, John, to get the tone in Pretty Little Ditty definitely comes back around in stuff like Californication, and then By the Way, you can kind of hear like the natural progression of it. But I don't like John's tone on Mother's Milk. No, it's far too fizzy and high gain, and I just don't like the sound of it. It's very, very there's a word I'm searching for. Other than fizzy, because it's got a gnarl to it, but it's not a very nice kind of gnarliness. It's ugly in a way. Well, to me anyway, it's an ugly tone, but it's very 80s shred rock. You know what I mean? It's got that kind of wasp in a jar kind of characteristic about it, where I really don't like. There's nothing wrong with that. Bands. Listen to bands like Dokken and stuff like some of that 80s hair metal stuff, like I can't think of any other bands other than Dokken off the top of my head, but they're the same kind of like distortion sound, and then the clean tone is really glassy, really, really clean and really glassy, and it just doesn't I don't like it. And say John's tone on that album, there's certain bits and overdubs where I'm like, that's a nice sound, but I'm not a big fan of his guitar tone. Like it was Ibanez RG guitars, Carvin amps. I'm pretty sure there's a Mesa Boogie in there as well. Like there's a Marshall, but I'm pretty sure it didn't really come out for anything other than Pretty Little Ditty. Yeah, it's mainly the Ibanez. Pretty sure he's Les Paul. John had a Les Paul custom. I don't know if he used it on Mother's Milk album, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did at some point. He had that free pickup custom. But not a big fan of it, no. Not a big fan of that tone. I like the tone on Pretty Little Ditty, but other than that, it's just a little bit too harsh. You know what I mean? I'm not a big fan of it, the tonality of the guitar he's got on that album at all. So yeah, it's not for me. So yeah. The last part of question 1 is, how are you and how do you feel? I feel okay. I don't feel fantastic or yay. I'm all right. You know what I mean? It's like it's just I'm trying to channel my anger and upset into guitar. there's a couple. I'm waiting on a few things at this point in time so I can record. Because there's certain sounds I want to. There's certain things I want to do for recording at this point in time, and I can't do them because I don't have the thing to do it. So I'm waiting. But I feel okay. Like I say, I'm not overly happy. I miss Nicole and Marja. I miss being with them and playing music with them and just being around them. But I'm all right. You know what I mean? I'm trying to channel everything into guitar and music, which is always is always the best place to be channeling these kind of things and throwing them in. And I'm just trying to kind of keep on keeping on, if that makes any sense. Like, I just want to keep busy. I'm never not going to anywhere because I love what I do. Thanks to you, I get to do it. So I'm very grateful. But no, I mean, I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm okay. Yeah. Things will be okay. It sometimes doesn't feel like it, but there's nothing weirder than life. There really isn't. And time's a strange creature. People of the tube, definitely. And yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'm okay. I feel okay as well. I mean, like I say, I'm surrounded by all my guitars and stuff, and I get to make videos for you awesome people, and I love doing this. So, I can't complain too much. Yeah, the only thing I've complained about is just general upset of kind of like not being with my two friends in the south of France, but and being here on my own kind of thing. That's my main upset at this point in time, because I just I miss their company, and it's hard to go from being with two people every day for 3 months, 2 months, and then all of a sudden you're on your own. You know what I mean? It's hard to make the switch, and as a human being, we require that interaction, that human interaction. We really require to be able to relate, talk, and communicate with other humans. And when that's not there, your mental state does suffer for it. And mine is because I'm on my own most of the day here, and it's quite difficult sometimes to kind of maintain equilibrium and balance, if you will. So, but no, like I said, I'm trying to look on the bright side of things. I mean, I've just reset up this room. I've kind of rejigged this room a little bit. I recently bought a new guitar rack. I've recently rejigged things about on this side, but I'm not going to show you that yet. You'll see it in a video very soon, though. Well, beginning of next month. And but yeah, so yeah, I'm all right. But like I say, just going to channel everything into guitar and try not to get too bogged down with stuff I've got no control over. I mean, the whole Brexit thing, what's going on and stuff like that, and me having to come home. I had no control over that. You know what I mean? There was nothing. There's no control for me to say no, or I'm not doing that or this or that. It's out of my control. So it's a waste of energy, really, to kind of try and kind of be upset about it. I mean, it's okay to be upset about it, but kind of like I need to channel that into a bit more of a positive thingy, because otherwise it will drag me down and drag me under, and I don't want that to happen. So yeah, but I'm okay. We're doing all right. It's just a case of just, like I say, keep on keeping on and just trying to keep my head above the water and just keep going as best I can, really. And same goes for everyone out there. Just keep doing the best you can every day, just the best you can, because that's all you can do. Okay. So yeah, I hope that's answered your question. I'm going to move on to question 2 now. So question 2 today is, why didn't you take the Brian May guitar to France? And would you recommend the Brian May guitar as an alternative to a Fender Jaguar? So the Brian May is just there. You can see it. Why didn't I take it to France? I don't play it enough. The Brian May guitar is a guitar that, although I love it, I don't play it a lot. I don't... It's not... can't think of the word. Certain things, it doesn't do certain things, and the sound is very, very, very specific. God, I have real difficulty saying that word. But yeah, it's really kind of like a certain sound, and I didn't take it with me just because I had limited space, and I didn't really require it. You know what I mean? I love the guitar, and I love it for recording. But I don't really require. I didn't require it with me to go to France, if that makes any sense. Like I just didn't need it with me, so it stayed here. I just didn't need to take it anywhere. But I was playing it the other night, and it's great fun to play. I really love the sound of it. But it's a very dark guitar. The tonality of the guitar is very dark. It's okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. So yeah, I just didn't need it. I didn't need it there. I had the Oswalds, and I had my Gretsch, and I had my Columbus 335. I didn't. It's just not one of those guitars I require on a daily basis, if that makes any sense. It's a great guitar, and I love it to bits. It's a really, really cool guitar, and it's got its own distinct sound, which I really, really like, and all the out of phase things and stuff like that. It's crazy, but yeah, I mean, when it came down to kind of like really picking the guitars I wanted to take with me and I felt comfortable with, it drew a short straw, so to say. So it stayed here, but it's there, it's happy, and it sounds cool, and it plays nicely, and I think it's got 9s on it or 8s on it. I forget if it's got. I think it's got 8s on it at this point in time, gauge 8s, or is it 9s? I totally forget. I don't know. They're light strings either way, but a la Brian himself, But yeah, I just didn't need to take it with me. I had other guitars that I wanted to take over that one, and it's like a lot of my guitars here. It's like a lot of them unfortunately drew the short straw because I couldn't take them all. I wish I could have, but I couldn't take them all, so I had to be aware of space, if that makes any sense. Anyway, so you also asked, would I recommend the Brian May as an alternative to a Jaguar? No, not at all. They're two different animals altogether. The Jaguar doesn't sound like Brian May, and Brian May doesn't sound like a Jaguar. The Brian May sounds like the Brian May guitar. You know what I mean? That does what it does, but it's really dark tonally. The Jaguar is a lot brighter. I wouldn't recommend it for an alternative to a Jag. No, not in the slightest. They're totally different creatures altogether, and yeah, it's just not a viable substitute. You know what I mean, for a Jag. They're too far apart on the spectrum, if you will. So Jaguar's over here, Brian May guitars over here, and they never come close. They're not the same. If you want a Jaguar, get a Jag. If you want a Brian May guitar, get a Brian May guitar. They are two separate entities, definitely, and one can't do the other's job. You know what I mean? The Jag can't do the Brian May's job, and the Brian May can't do the Jaguar's job. So no, I wouldn't recommend it as a substitute for a Jaguar or an alternative. No way, no, definitely not. It's definitely a different creature altogether. Okay, so moving on to question 3 now. Question 3. Okay, so question 3, brace yourselves. How do you know when you found the right guitar? You just know. If you haven't found it yet, it means you have to keep looking. It's just one of those things. Being a lucky shrew like I am, I've been able to play a lot of guitars in my life, and through finding kind of my white Strat very early on, into 3 years into playing guitar, I kind of knew what I was looking for. But saying that, I've always known the sound that I want in my head. You know what I mean? I've always had a sound in my head. I know what I want. And that's just a Stratocaster, you know what I mean? The sound of the guitar in my head is a Strat. I do have a Les Paul tone up here. I know how I want a Les Paul to sound. I know how I want a Telecaster to sound. I know how I want a 335 to sound. I know how I want a acoustic to sound, or whatever. But my main sound is a Stratocaster, and I was very lucky in the fact that I found that sound very early on with my white Strat. Because when I got my first guitar, my Washburn, that gave me a little bit of what I wanted. And then I got Squier Strat, which was kind of a bit better. And then I got my Les Paul, which is over there. And I was kind of like, love this sound, but it's not me. But I used it kind of constantly for a long time. I know my Les Paul. And then I got my black Fender Strat, my Squier Strat thing that's over there. But it wasn't until I got my white Fender, I was like, that's the sound. And that's the feel, and that's the way I want it to be. So that was when I became, Strat obsessed and knew that Stratocasters were the guitar. So yeah, I mean, you know it when you know it, but sometimes it takes a long time. And I think it comes from you have to play everything. You know what I mean? But I think sometimes you can kind of trick yourself and kid yourself into thinking this guitar isn't right, or there's something wrong, or this isn't, this, that, and the other. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I mean, I know I've known people who get guitars and just like go from pillar to post with it, and it's like, oh no, this isn't it, and they go from that guitar to another guitar, from that guitar to another guitar, and flip flop, and they never find it. And I think that's just maybe they don't know what they want, or what they want doesn't exist, or they want a hybrid of something, or the specs of what they want isn't what you can buy off the shelf, so to say. In which case, you need to kind of go to somebody to build you a guitar if you can afford to make it to your specs. I mean, not every guitar off the shelf is going to be good for you, and every guitar is going to be different, serial number 155 will be different to 156 and 154. They're all different. They've all got different voices, different personalities, and they'll make you play and feel different about them. But I think it's the same as, I feel the same way about guitar buying and owning guitars as I do about pedals and amps. Is before you buy an amp or a pedal or a guitar, you want to know what you want out of it. No ifs, no buts, no maybe, none of that. You just want to go, I want this. So which guitar can I play today that's going to give me that? No digress, just that. That's what I want, So for me, it's always a Stratocaster. No matter what happens, I always end up coming back into a Strat. I'm like, there we go. Especially my white one or my red one, or like the 62 or some others. It's just like, that's what I want. So I think you need to kind of like, if you haven't found a guitar that kind of works for you yet, I think it might be a case of keep searching, but there might be a case of might need to ask yourself what you want from a guitar, or from the guitar, instead of kind of going from pillar to post with guitars. You might just want to kind of ask yourself, like, what do I want this to do? What's the sound I want? How do this, that, and the other? And just find your way. And then I think it's a case of sticking with it. I think once you get a guitar that kind of does the sound you want, I think you have to live with it for a year or so and kind of understand its ins and outs, and then it kind of grows on you. I mean, because Stratocasters took a while to grow on me. I mean, my white Strat, as soon as I got my white Strat, I just wanted to play it all the time. But there were times where I'm like, man, is this? And then eventually you realise that a year or so down the line, you're like, yes, this is it. You can't fully know a guitar in a couple of months unless you've kind of got experience. You know what I mean? After playing guitar for a long period of time and playing lots of guitars, you can eventually pick up a guitar and go, no, because you know what you want by that time. You know what I mean? After a certain amount of years of playing guitar, and kind of going for what you want, I think you develop that kind of like what's the word? You just know what you want, so to say. It's like, I can pick up a guitar and know within a couple of seconds whether I'm going to like it. I can play through a pedal or an amp and know in a couple of seconds if I'm going to like it or not. So, and again, I know quite a few other people who are like that, who just know immediately, and again, it just comes with experience and doing it. And, but I do think you kind of have to kind of find your own way, eventually, after you've asked yourself enough times what you want and what you want out of a guitar and what you want it to do, I think you find your way. It's like Eddie Van Halen with his Frankenstrat. Eddie wanted the sound of a Les Paul, but in a Strat body. So, he just put humbucker in the Strat, and history was made. No one ever done that before Eddie. So, and it's things like that where it's like, I want this and I want that. Let's put them together. You know what I mean? It's just things like that, So how do you know? Eventually you just know, but it takes time. And also, like I say, you have to know what you want. You know, you can't just kind of go blindly like this, going, I think I might want this and think I might want that. You need to go, if you're thinking I might want this, you don't want to be doing that. You want to be going, I know I want this. You know what I mean? You know, it's like I knew, for instance, today for the intro jam, I knew exactly what guitar, I knew exactly what tonality I wanted as well. And again, that comes with time and again, submitting yourself to music and listening to what music wants from you, instead of kind of like, you kind of leading that. Music leads that. But when it comes down to a guitar, like say, when you're finding that one, I think you need to know what you want from it. You know, I mean, if I want a Les Paul that does this, or I want a Strat that does this, or whatever, you need to know. So how do you know when you found a right guitar? You will eventually know, but again, it just takes time. You have to stick with guitars sometimes for a while to know if you like it or not. I mean, recently, with the acquisition of the Columbus 335, the brown one, I'm questioning whether I even want this guitar behind me anymore. I might be selling the Heartwood because the Columbus 335 is a little bit special. Not to say this one isn't. This one is incredible. The Heartwood Revival is an amazing guitar, but the Columbus has just a little bit more of something that doesn't have, which is strange, really, because that one is definitely more reliable and more sturdy. The Columbus is very wonky donkey and needs looking at, and I need to do some bit more fixing on it to make it stable. But it's got something that this one doesn't have, and it's hard to say. But you know when you know. I might do a shootout of that actually. I might do a hollow body shootout between the Heartwood and the Columbus, and see which one I prefer more. I think it'll be the Columbus personally, but we'll see. Yeah, I might do a video on that. Interesting. But yeah, you'll know when you know. It just takes time to understand, sometimes where you want to be, and also ask yourself like some very important questions about what do you want your guitar to do in the first place. There's no point just kind of going blind. Like I say, there's no point going blindly into things. It's just you're not going to achieve anything. You need to know. You really need to know. So you might to ask yourself a question: what do I want from this guitar? So I could talk about it for hours. I might do a video on that separately, so I can talk for hours about that. But at this point, I'm going to move on to question 4. So I hope that's this question okay. But like I say, that's kind of all I can say at this point in time. I hope there's something in there you can take away. Okay, so question 4. Question 4 today is I bought a Fender. Why am I doing that? Well, I was kind of like craning myself. Okay, so question 4 is I bought a Fender Mexico Strat with 3 single coil noiseless pickups. Fender noiseless pickups. Do you think it's worth swapping them out for Tex-Mex pickups or any others? And what's your opinion on noiseless pickups? So I'll answer the last part first because that will make the question make more sense. So I don't like noiseless pickups at all. I've tried a lot of guitars with noiseless pickups and I've never liked the tonality of them at all. I think they sound like they're underwater. They just sound blanketed. Yes, you get the added bonus of them not making any hum or buzz, but I don't like them. I don't like the sound of noiseless pickups at all. Would I recommend changing them for Tex-Mex? I mean, for me personally, I would. You have to ask yourself this question, coming back to question 3 quickly. If you like the sound of your guitar as it is, then leave it alone. If your Strat sounds good to you right now, don't bother. Just leave it as it is. But if you're not happy with it and the sound isn't what you want, then yes. But you have to ask yourself that question, and you need to know. You can't just be like, I might. You need to be 100% sure you can do it. I mean, it's not a irreversible thing. You can always put other pickups in and then put the noiseless back if you don't like what you get in the first place. But I always find when you take your pickups out of a guitar and then put them back in, they never quite sound the same way they did before. I don't know why that is. It's weird. I'm sure there's some kind of weird electronic explanation for that. But I've always found that when I took the pickups out of the guitar and then put them back into the same guitar, they never sounded the same. It's bizarre. Anyway, but if you don't like the noiseless, yes, I would recommend changing them to something like Tex-Mex or Texas Specials, or something like Tone Rider pickups or something like that. But if you're happy with the noiseless the way they are, then leave the guitar alone. There's no point messing with it if you're happy with it. But if you're not happy with it, yes, by all means. But don't do it on a whim. Do it because you know you want that change. Don't do it just because you feel like you should or whatever. Know you want to have a different sound first. You know, you need to be 100% sure before you do it, because otherwise you can tweak your guitar out of being a good guitar to a bad guitar if you're not careful. Or, you know, it can go the other way as well. You can go from a good guitar to a great guitar. But you got to be careful, and you have to be sure. You can't just like go, you don't want to just go to wading into things and just kind of like, you know, and then try to fix mistakes after you've kind of made them, so to say. But yeah. So be aware of that. But yeah, for me personally, I really don't like noiseless pickups. It's like lace sensor pickups. I really don't like lace sensor pickups either. I just don't like the sound of them. They just sound dead and lifeless and flat, and they just don't do anything for me. I've only ever played one guitar actually with lace sensors that I liked, and it was a black Strat we had in Old Hat. It was a USA standard, and it had lace sensors, and it was a really good guitar. It wasn't great. There was a Mexican Strat in there with the original Tex-Mex pickups, which is immediately better, infinitely better than this USA Strat, tonality-wise, playing-wise, and everything. It was that white one I've spoken about before. But it wasn't bad. You know, it had a Stratty kind of thing to it, but the rest just sounded dire. And all the lace sensor guitars I've tried in the past and noiseless pickup guitars I've tried in the past, I just don't get along with them at all. So, not for me. Not for me. If I got a guitar with noiseless pickups, they'd be coming out immediately, and Tex-Mex pickups would be going in, because yeah, I just don't like them at all, and I'd get rid of them. They just don't work for me. I've tried enough to know that they don't work for me. So that's my opinion. But like I say, coming back to your initial question, would it be worth swapping them out? Only if you're sure. If the noiseless pickups aren't doing what you want, then yes. But if you like the guitar the way it is and it sounds good and you like the tonality of it and it works, then no. Just leave it the way it is. There's no point changing something if you don't need to change it. You know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So yeah, there we go. People on YouTube. Well, yeah. So I hope that's answered your question. Yeah. So is there anything else I need to talk about there? I don't think there is. So yeah. So yeah. Be that for what it may. So ow, wow. I've twinged something in my leg, and every now and again I twist my leg and it burns. It's like a burning. It really hurts. Okay. So anyway. I feel like I could talk about that for a lot more, but I'm not going to, just in case. Plus, I'm losing my voice for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, and I don't have a drink, which is clever. This is why you always need a drink for A&Q Wednesday, David. Okay, so yeah, hope that's answered your question. Yes, and yeah, I hope I've answered everyone's questions okay. I hope there's something you can take away, and you know, I hope it's somewhat informative. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, everybody. I don't know what the next video is. I can't remember what it is. But anyway, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, everybody. I'll see you again for another one soon. Yeah, if you want to submit a question for A&Q Wednesday, description box below has a email link. Email me there. I will get to it when I get to it. I don't pick and choose. I go through sequentially, so it's kind of like I go up. But the only reason I won't answer your question is if I've answered it before multiple times. So if you ask a question on something that I've answered multiple times before, I won't answer it again because I've already done it. So yeah, so if your question hasn't been answered, odds are I've done it before. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video, everybody. I hope it's been somewhat informative. As usual, here's the fear. And yeah, and I'll see you again very soon for another one. Have a great morning, afternoon, good evening, and goodbye now. Thank you very much for watching.